The Tale of Two Sisters, written by Shri S. Seth, published in the year 2017. Dolly and Polly are sisters, only children of their parents. Dolly is 20 years old and Polly 6 years younger. Dolly got married to Nakul, who was looking for a job in their mother state, Odisha, without success. Extending the hunt farther, Nakul, along with his young wife, landed in the steel city of Chhattisgarh, Bhilai, and found a roof over their head in the posh colony of the city thanks to Dolly, who got employed as the maid servant in an upper middle class household. The younger sister, Polly, who was darling of the parents, insisted on being sent to the bigger city to join her sister to earn some money on her own and have a good time. The parents capitulated after some cajoling, and thus Polly, too, on a fine morning, landed at her sister's place. Discovering that there could be requirement of a maid servant, Dolly spoke to the next door neighbor of her employer, and thus the teenaged girl found shelter and the job of a domestic help for doing odd jobs around Guptaji's house. After hardly 2 months' stay in the steel city, Nakul decided that this was not the place for him, and the couple moved back to Odisha. Polly continued to serve in Guptaji's place. There was not really much to do around the house with just two persons, Mr. Gupta and his wife, to look after, and after a few days, Mrs. Gupta lent the services of Polly to a close relative of theirs living a few blocks away on their specific request, as their daughter-in-law was in advanced stage of pregnancy. So, thither the young girl shifted. She was a nascent village girl to begin with, and her job performance was just so-so. But she picked up the nuances of her job in course of time, and by coming in touch with the people of the modern and cosmopolitan city, she became wiser to the fast city life. She proved to be a quick learner with somewhat twisted leanings. After a few months of arrival of the newborn, both the baby and her mother moved over to join her husband, and Polly was left again without any workload. She was recalled by Mrs. Gupta, and she decided to send her to the national capital, that is New Delhi, to work for her younger sister, who was passing through a back-breaking time, as there was a sudden dearth of domestic help in the great city. This news was accepted by Polly with glee, as a keen desire for adventure and for new avenues of exploration excited her to no end. Within a few days, she was escorted to New Delhi by a trusted employee of Mr. Gupta by train. Goyals, the new masters of Polly, were affluent people living in a huge, well furnished mansion with a flourishing business spreading over to even outside Delhi. Despite a heavy workload, Polly was elated with the change as she had better living quarters and occasional foray into the dazzling surroundings of the metropolis, which she found captivatingly attractive. Unknown to her new masters, she, over a time, entered into friendship with street smart outsiders. A few months later, Suniti, Mrs. Goyle's elder daughter, arrived from the USA on her biennial visit, loaded with costly goodies as gifts for the family members and friends. She dumped articles like handmade ladies' purses, exotic scent bottles, high heel sandals for her younger sister, exquisite electronic toys for the children's, etc., rather carelessly on the sofa in the living room for being disposed of for safekeeping next morning. These items, products of different countries of the globe, carried original tags of the US stores from where these were purchased. She also left under the heap of the gift items her wallet containing 50 $100 currency notes along with some currency notes of lesser denomination, like what she was possibly doing in the safety of her parents' house during her earlier visits. There was a pandemonium in the house next morning when the living room sofa was found bereft of what was left there the previous night, just a few hours earlier. Suniti was pulled up for her carelessness by her mother, but the girl, who was quite upset on the disappearance of her pricey goods, murmured under her breath that she had always considered the parental house as an unimpregnable fortress where nothing ever was lost in the past, and she was herself shocked. Being the only odd element in the scenario, the doubt for the missing articles fell on the new maidservant Polly. But she was untraceable, her room was found locked, and the only window was ajar. Mr. Goyle peeped into the room after pushing open the window beyond the steel bars with a stick. Lo and behold, the heap of articles left in the living room last night had got shifted to the inside of the servant room in toto. Apparently, the thief had no time to hide or dispose the loot of and has now absconded to meet her cohorts and decide further course of action. Mr. Goyle now felt certain that the girl must be in league with some professional goons and must have been purloining things from their house in the past also without their knowledge. The entire family waited for the return of the girl with bated breath and pounced on her when she was showed up after about an hour. Looking totally unruffled, she leisurely unlocked and opened the door of her room and started shifting the stolen material to her steel trunk. Seeing this, Mr. Goyle lost his temper and shouted at the top of his voice, "You miserable thief, don't touch any of our things. I am going to videograph all the proceedings now and hand over you to the police thereafter." Polly shouted back, "Sahib, all these things are mine. I had brought them from a previous place of employment when I came here. I had bought them all out of my hard earned money after months of toil. I was about to pack them back as I shall be leaving you soon. I don't like to work with you anymore. You are rude people. Mr. Goyal was meanwhile video recording all this conversation on his mobile phone and also all the stolen articles, including the stack of dollar notes littered on the floor. He was sure this will make a cast iron police case against the girl. The girl was safely locked up in her room thereafter, and the Goyals retired for an in house conference. The belligerency of the girl was surprising. It was unanimously concluded that she must be having some strong support system outside the house. It was further concluded that since all the stolen material was still in the house, making this theft a police case was not necessary. Goyals were convinced that police will definitely ascertain the age of the girl and may book a counter case against them for engaging child labor for domestic work, some of which could be considered as hazardous. They found themselves in a catch 22 position, particularly because the culprit was a teenage girl and, when cornered by the police, may blurt out some false allegations against Goyals to save her skin. Mrs. Goyal decided to tell the full story to her elder sister, Mrs. Gupta, by telephone and dump Polly, the source of this misery, back from where she came. During the air journey to the state capital of Chhattisgarh, Polly was made to sit between Mr. and Mrs. Goyal and was harshly asked to shut up by Mr. Goyal when she started blabbering that she wants to be given back all her things packed in the steel trunk in their house. Another word from her mouth and he shall physically toss her out of the aircraft window for a free fall, he threatened. This scared and quietened her for the rest of the journey. Proceeding by car from the airport to her sister's house in the Steel City, Bhilai, Mrs. Goyal told Polly, "We are taking you to your paternal uncle, Mr. Rath, your local guardian, to send you back to your parents in Odisha. If you speak any more bullshit, we will take the car straight to the police station. All that you had stolen from our living room and what you talked yesterday in our servant room is video recorded in this mobile phone, based on which you will be sent to jail for years." With this, she pushed her Apple 6 mobile phone under Polly's nose to let her see a part of the recording for herself. Polly remained silent. As the car reached its destination, Mrs. Goyal rushed to hug her sister. On return to the car to pick up her purse, she could not locate her mobile phone. It had just disappeared from the back seat. A massive hunt was made for the missing phone. It could be found only next morning after a rigorous search, completely smashed up and unserviceable in an adjacent vacant housing plot amongst thick wild vegetation. Police local guardian had somehow got wind of what the girl had done at Goyal's place and totally disowned her. He refused to even see her. Nonplussed, Mr. Gupta obtained the phone number of Dolly, the elder sister, from her neighbor. When contacted, she refused to intervene but passed on the mobile phone number of their mother, who was in their ancestral house in the village. When contacted, the old lady heard the entire story patiently and agreed to come to Mr. Gupta's place to take her younger daughter away back to her native place. On seeing the mother next day, Polly acted like a cornered feline and pounced on the old lady, repeating her side of story at the top of her voice and refused to leave till she was given back all the stuff left by her in her steel trunk. She appeared to be entirely free of the fear of being handed over to the police as well as the reason thereof, and could be calmed down and taken away by her mother with great difficulty. With their departure, Guptas heaved a big sigh of relief. This is the true narration of what has happened in the recent past. Employment of children of 9 to 16 years of age as domestic servants is quite common in our country. In fact, such persons are preferred as they are innocent, pliant to commands, and come much cheaper. But putting such tender aged children to toil around the house for hours on end, even without a weekly off, robs them of their childhood, opportunities for education, and carefree moments of life. Besides, following acts of law should be kept in mind before employing such juveniles. These laws are very stringent, and the violator could be in serious difficulty if the law enforcement authorities decide to act against him or her. Sympathy of the authorities will always be with the weaker party, especially if girl children are involved. The burden of proof of innocence will immediately shift to the employer. It is therefore strongly advised not to employ children as domestic servants. Thank you for listening. The parents capitulated after some cajoling. Capitulate. Capitulate means surrender, give in. Cajole. Cajole. Cajole means persuade someone to do something by coaxing or flattery. So, thither the young girl shifted. She was a nascent village girl. Thither means towards that place. Nascent, Nascent, nascent means just coming into existence, budding. There was a pandemonium in the house next morning when the living room sofa was found bereft of what was left there the previous night. Pandemonium. Pandemonium means wild and noisy disorder or confusion, great uproar. Lo and behold, the heap of articles left in the living room last night had got shifted to the inside of the servants' room in toto. In toto as a whole. Mr. Goel now felt certain that the girl must be in league with some professional goons and must have been purloining things from their house in the past also. Purloin. Purloin means steal something. The belligerency of the girl was surprising. Belligerence. Belligerency. Belligerence means aggressive or warlike behavior. During the air journey to the state capital of Chhattisgarh, Polly was made to sit between Mr. and Mrs. Goel and was harshly asked to shut up by Mrs. Goel when she started blabbering that she wants to be given back all her things. Blabber. Blabber means talk foolishly or excessively. Employment of children of 9 to 16 years of age as domestic servants is quite common in our country. In fact, such persons are preferred as they are innocent, pliant to commands. Pliant, pliant means easily influenced or directed, yielding. Thank you for listening.